What's up, YouTube? It's your girl, Lottie's Creations. I'm back with yet another great tutorial. I had a special request. Someone asked if I can show you all how I do my cutting by layers. In a previous video, I showed you all how to do the larger than matte cutout, but I also showed how to create the SVG file. So SVGs can be used when you want to do a layer cut or a print. So this is the SVG that I created a few nights ago, and I just want to show you all how to cut this. You can do it with vinyl, or if you wanted to do it with heat transfer vinyl, you can do that as well. If I right click and say ungroup, you can see the several different boxes that appear that lets me know that this is in layers, and I can separate it by colors. So now if I wanted to print this or cut it using vinyl, I would want to cut each color and then piece the image back together. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and highlight the image and right click and group it together again. And I'm going to draw a rectangle around the image. So I'm going to go over to the tools panel, get the rectangle, and just draw a rectangle around this. And this is going to be my box for weeding when I get ready to weed out the actual vinyl. So now that I have that, now if this was going on heat transfer, you would have to mirror the image, but I'm just going to cut it out of sticky vinyl. But if you were heating this, you would want to flip the image or mirror the image so it reads right when you place it down on the garment. So to cut this from sticky vinyl, I'm just going to go to the send panel. And when the send panel come up, we're going to click on the tab that says fill, F-I-L-L, fill. And what it's going to show is each color that this image is made up of. So you see all the different colors. Normally, it may already come in checked. However, mine did not come in checked. If it is checked, that means it would try to cut each color that is checked. So all you would need to do here, let's say we want to cut the black layer. I put a check mark next to the black. And then I'm going to change the material that I'm going to be cutting from. So I'm going to click on the drop down. And I'm going to choose vinyl glossy because I'm going to be cutting from my glossy vinyl. And it's going to be auto cut. And if you need to adjust your cut settings, so on my Cameo 4, I cut my vinyl on 16. And the speed is at 6. And my force I put at 2. I'm sorry, my blade depth is at 2. So the blade depth is at 2. The force is at 16. My speed is at 6. And the only thing right now that would cut would be the black. And you can see it highlighted here in the actual image. But I also want to cut the rectangle. Let's see. So I got to find my rectangle. So there's my rectangle. It's highlighted in red. And I can see there's a few little extra pieces that didn't get peeled away, but that's fine because that's just going to be inside of the rectangle, so that's not an issue. So from here, all I would do is also change the type of material that I'm going to be cutting the rectangle from, which is going to be my vinyl glossy. Find my vinyl glossy. So I choose my vinyl glossy, and I'm going to hit send and send this over to cut. Okay, and then I would continue to follow that technique until the colors are all cut. So I'm going to cut the black layer and the rectangle, and then we'll come back and cut another layer. Okay, now that the black has finished cutting, we'll uncheck the black, and I'm going to go ahead and cut out the white. So I'm going to put a check mark next to the white. I'm going to change it from cardstock to vinyl glossy. And I'm going to leave the rectangle so that we can weed it out. And then also I'm going to adjust the settings, change it to 16, 6, and 2. And I hit send, and we'll come back and cut the next color. Okay, the white has finished cutting. I'll uncheck the white, and we'll go ahead and cut the pink. And I'm gonna make sure my settings are correct for vinyl glossy. Let's change it to vinyl glossy. And change it to 16, 6, 2, send. And we'll come back and cut the other colors. Okay, we are ready to now cut the teal. So I'm going to uncheck the pink, check the teal, and we're going to change it to vinyl glossy. And then we're going to adjust the settings. Change it to 16, 6, and 2, and send. Okay, we are now going to cut the purple. And one thing that I wanted to mention, when cutting this, if you want to save on vinyl, you can make the rectangle smaller and just put it around just the area that you're going to be cutting. For instance, when we cut the teal bracelet, I could have just drew a rectangle right around that, and then I could have moved it on the actual vinyl to save some of the vinyl. So just keep that in mind. Even though I didn't move or change my size of the rectangle, you can do that to save on some of your vinyl material. So now I have the purple selected. I'm going to go ahead and change that to vinyl glossy. And then I'm going to adjust my cut settings. Again, 16, 6, and 2. Now, if you have a new blade, you may not have to adjust yours. You can use the preset. I've been cutting on my blade for a while, so I just increase my cut settings. And I hit send, and we'll come back and continue cutting. Now I'm going to go ahead and uncheck the purple, click on the orange, change the cut paper to vinyl glossy. Adjust my settings. 16, 6, 2, and I'm sending to the cutter. Okay, we're ready to cut the inside of the map. And I'm going to change it to vinyl glossy. And with this one, I'm going to go ahead and adjust my rectangle. I don't need the rectangle to be that big for that small piece. So I'm just going to adjust that. And it doesn't matter if some of it hangs off of the paper, because remember, you're only going to be cutting that area. And then I'm just going to move my image up as well. And then we're going to go back to send. Change my settings. And send to the cutter. Okay, so we're gonna uncheck the mouth and we're gonna get her tongue. And again, the tongue is such a small area, so I'm gonna make that rectangle even smaller, just to kind of cut down on some of my vinyl. And then I'm gonna also adjust and move her closer to the corner, since we only need a little piece. And then we go to send. And it doesn't matter if any of the other areas are off the mat, because we're only cutting the little pink tongue. So I'm gonna make sure my settings are correct. Vinyl glossy. And then we're gonna change the cut settings. 16, 6, 2, send. Okay, so now we're gonna cut the baby blue that's inside of her eyes. And again, because they're such small pieces, we're gonna adjust that area as well. So I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. And we're gonna just cut the blue in her eyes. So we'll adjust the rectangle to kind of capture more of that area. And then we go to send. And we're going to adjust the material, vinyl glossy. Adjust my cut settings. 16, 6, and 2. And we hit send. Okay, and the last color will be the eyeshadow. And we're going to also go and adjust the cut area for that as well. So I'm going to adjust the rectangle for that area. And then we're going to go to send. And we're going to change it to vinyl glossy. And we're going to adjust our settings, 16, 6, and 2, and send. All right, so all of our pieces have been cut out and we are finished with the cutting process. And what we want to do now is weed out those pieces and then assemble those together. So the next steps would be to go ahead and weed those out and put it together. Stay tuned. Okay, I have my pieces cut out and I'm just going to weed each color from the vinyl. And this is sticky vinyl, so you want to just be careful to make sure you're not losing any of the pieces, and then also making sure that none of the pieces touch each other. And you'll repeat that for each one of the colors, just weeding away any of the excess. And with some of the pieces, they can be a little small. So you want to just make sure you're being careful when you're peeling and weeding away the excess vinyl. Okay, so these are all weeded out. I did weed some of the smaller ones earlier just to save on some of the time. But once you have them all weeded out, you take some transfer tape and then you start to move the pieces. So I'm going to start with the white. And remember, again, this is sticky vinyl. And if it touch before you're ready for it to, it will be hard to get that piece to come back up. So you just have to be very cautious when removing your vinyl. And you just kind of place it on top of the black background and layer each color as you go. And you just continue to lay the pieces on. Until you have a completed image. And that's how the finished piece would look. Let's see, remove this piece right there. So that is the finished layered image. And basically all you're doing is layering each color on top of the next.